Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Bible study. Today we're going to be in Genesis 22, a very controversial chapter. So follow along if you're able. Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. Then he said, Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. I'll explain later. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son, and he split the wood of the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, the lad and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you. So we have a very controversial place in the Bible that a lot of people like to comment on as being very, very immoral. Well, I'll read further and then what I'll talk about as a whole. Verse 6. So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. Alright, so I'll talk about it now. So a lot of people who want to diss the Bible, they use this as one of their main points that they go off of. A couple things on that. Number one, God knew he knew he was going to provide the ram, as we'll read later. Number 2, this is you could say a prophetic image of the crucifixion long before it ever happened. Abraham placing the wood on his son. The symbolic meaning being Abraham being the father and Isaac the son. Another point I want to mention, so it's an image of the crucifixion. It is also an image of, so a lot of people say God is immoral because of this, but what I think is that it's not immoral, number one. Number 2, even if you thought it was, if God is the ultimate and the supreme, God isn't under anyone. He's not, his authority isn't, he's not bound to anyone under authority. And so God can choose whatever he wants as moral and immoral, and it's up to us if we want to go along with God's will or not. But once again, this isn't even immoral. So, another thing I wanted to point in, what it means when he says he took the fire in his hand. Fires then, they were started with bow and drill. Look it up if you don't know. I can't show you. But what he probably did was he took a container, like a leather container or something, where and he took a coal. So, and that's how people carried fire. They wouldn't just start a new fire every single time they made a camp. They would just take the coal from the last fire, if that makes sense. So this is a very solemn story because it's a direct image of the crucifixion. Verse 6. So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. Then he said, Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So the 2 of them went together. As Jesus was carrying that cross, the Father was with him the entire way. And it wasn't until the very end when all of humanity's wickedness was upon him. And so Isaac the son is carrying the wood. Then they came to a place which God had told him, and Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order. And he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his son and took the knife to slay his son. This is also an image of a sheer bending to God's will and conforming to God's will above all else. Jesus said we're supposed to hate our brothers and sisters and father and mother compared to him. So God's will above all else. Verse 11, but the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, here I am. And he said, do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him. For I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, the Lord will provide, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time out of heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing, and you have not withheld your son, your only son, I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. Now it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, indeed, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor, whose his firstborn, Buz his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, I'm butchering these Hebrew names, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begot Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore Tebah, Gaham, and Thahash, and Maachah. We're at 8 minutes. We'll read 23. So that story it's a very solemn story for me personally, just because it's a direct, it's directly correlated to the crucifixion. Verse 23. Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in Kirjath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a visitor among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying, Hear us, my lord. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you his burial place, that you may bury your dead. Then Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your wish that I bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and meet with Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is in the end of his field. Let let him give it to me at the full price as property for a burial place among you. So he arrives at Hebron, and he's asking these guys, I'd like to buy this place for this money. And they say, you're a prince among us, you're a king, you can take whatever you want for free. He says, just let, and he wants to pay for it. Verse 10, and Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the presence of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of the city, saying, No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field and the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I give it to you, bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, If you will give it, please hear me. I will give you money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abram, saying to him, My lord, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is between you and me? So bury your dead. So they're having a dispute over who's going to pay for it. And this guy's just trying to force it on Abraham. And Abraham won't listen. Verse 16, and Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named, in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. So the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, all the trees that were in the field, which were within the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field, Machpelah, which is Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial place. So we will stop there. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next video.